you
I
doing,
get it.
man?
I'm well. Happy New Year.
Good, good. It's been a while since our last one.
Mm,
We were due for
was it last year?
yes.
Was it
And
last year?
we just started this year.
Do I look okay? Here's my face. Or should I pull down a little bit?
Yeah, but I don't think it's a camera issue. I think it's a
Oh.
face issue.
Oh, okay. I feel like, yeah, people tell me I have a face for radio.
Really?
Yeah.
So there's a with the book that you recommended, the manufacturing consent. It's like mind blowing. As you read more into it, you kind of understand why it doesn't get talked about a lot. And
Yeah.
um and it really puts everything like as an example, because before reading this, and I mean, Noam Chomsky, he's a really good like linguistic. He does all his research, reads all articles, talks to people, so he's legit, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you don't see his name being thrown out. At least I don't.
In the mainstream.
Yeah, in the mainstream. Yeah, especially in the mainstream, you don't see his name thrown out there, or even stuff that he talks about. But you do hear about them giving some like showing some people that are conspiracy theorists, and when
Mm-hmm.
you have people like that, then it kind of eliminates the whole theory or the whole idea. It's like one of those things where you say something, but the more people talk about it, the more it gets posted, the more it gets flown through
Yep.
everybody, it
Mm-hmm.
eventually loses its authenticity, right? And
That's funny.
and at the end of it, and at once it gets to like the final product, it's something completely different, and now we see it as a conspiracy theory. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like I didn't realize like stuff like this was in the works back in the 1980s.
I mean, yeah, it's been going on forever. Like, I think I sent you a documentary. What is it called? The one I sent you, Harvesting Empires.
Yes, 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 yes.
Did you watch it yet?
I watched some of it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's that. Like reading through Manufacturing Consent reminded me of when I first watched that one, and I was just like, dang, it does tie together. And more to it, even in the book, it also talks about how during certain events that are going on in history, they won't mention certain things,
Right.
because of how people would react, like the El Salvador thing, right? They were talking about in the beginning. They're talking about that Polish person that was killed, but
Mm-hmm.
they're not mentioning the two. I think they would be guerrillas at that point. The
Yes,
killed
yes.
Catholic priests that were killed in El Salvador, the 72 people, the 4 women. Like none of that was really mentioned, and that's all part of it as well. It's crazy. They have it's just this whole system that's built around it. Like they really did check themselves to be able to the name of the book, Manufactured Consent.
Right. And it's crazy because, I understand that there's other things that happened in the past. And, I don't know what's really considered like a genocide, because
Mm-hmm.
there's like the Holocaust and stuff like that that's considered genocide. But if you really dig in deep with everything else that happens around the world, there's a lot of those. Just like when you were talking about like in El Salvador, when they killed the priest, they killed the priest, and then you have all these people that like the priest and they respected him. They show up to his funeral, and the government just ends up shooting up like a bunch of people, like thousands of people.
Yeah.
And before I read the book, before I listened to the book, I was watching the movie, and one of the things that they were showing was that, like, for example, like the New York Post, once they receive an article from another source, they dissect it, and at first, it's like 5 paragraphs long, and then
Mm-hmm.
they dissect it to where it's like maybe 1 paragraph, and it's a bunch of bits and pieces. And it's crazy how they put it to where it's like the right amount to get you notified about it, and the right amount for you not to act on it
Not to act, or maybe not.
or
Yeah, I
question
guess.
it. Yeah, yeah, or question
Hmm.
it. And it's like they know what they're doing.
Yeah, that's how the American exceptionalism's like that. Like, the idea that we can do no wrong here. That's not true. It's
Yeah.
far fetched. There's no, like, you have to. I don't know. I mean, like that, as the Empire of Harvest of Empires, a bunch of different things that I've seen, like, have just changed my mind when it comes to like immigration in the United States, or it makes me look at war differently, obviously, and the conflicts that we're in other countries. Like, it really does. It's like you can even find, like, I know what's one of the big thing right now that I see a lot is like anti-communism and stuff like that, and that's covered in that book too. Like, that's a go-to. Anti-communism is a go-to in this country to dissuade people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's crazy. And when in the movie, there's this he gets question like, okay, if you're saying that our system's broken and United States is a mess and we're filled with a bunch of bad people, why don't you go somewhere else? Because I would think, yeah, I would think that you also hear that from a lot of people. And
A lot.
his answer was, the reason why I don't leave is because this is not my country. I love my country, and this is the only place that we're able to make changes. Like, yeah, there's problems, but it doesn't mean that we cannot fix them. We can fix
Hmm.
them. So just because one thing's wrong doesn't mean that the whole thing's wrong. It just means that we have to focus on those little things that are wrong and fix them. Or else, just like, if we didn't fix stuff like this back in the 80s, like we didn't, now you see things happening on and on and on every year with every country.
Hmm. Hmm. You're right. I mean, yeah, or no, Chomsky's right. And it's hard now, like, us being on the cusp of being at the wheel. Like, we're like, it's going to be pretty soon, we're going to be in charge, and I mean, like, our generation, like
Yeah.
Generation X, and it's like we have to contend with what's been done in the past, and it's like, it's so difficult to go forward with that stuff. I mean, not like we have a choice. You don't have a choice. You got to keep going forward. But I mean, it feels harder now. Well, I guess I can't say that, but it does feel pretty hard now with how divisive everything is. And we always go back to how, oh, everyone's so separated and polarized, and blue team, red team. It's crazy. And that's just the cusp of what's wrong with the country right now.
Right. And that's also what you're looking at, no? Because if you're having this idea that everybody's, segregated and everybody has different opinions and this and that, it also depends what you're looking at. Because if you're constantly on this platform and, the more you look at it, the more you see it, you know,
An
and
echo chamber.
yeah, exactly. And you know what? Like the manufacturing consent, I feel like that was the social dilemma of the 1980s in some sort of way with the
I
media.
think they tie together. They
Yeah,
go hand in
they,
hand.
yes, yes, that for sure. Because
You
now,
you mentioned how they condensed that paragraph.
Mhm.
Like you could totally relate to that, to the social dilemma, where things are given to us at like a faster pace. It really does break our attention spans. That's one thing. Like, our attention spans are not what they used to be. I mean, at least for me personally, like, it's hard to stay focused on like a book or anything like that. So that's why I like jumping between audio and reading, and that's that's the best way. And actually, in the book, I would recommend that you get the physical copy, because in the back of it, there's an appendix, there's an index, there's a glossary. Like, I'm sorry, the index will help you. Like, that's why I told you when I was reading it, I'm reading in like different sections and stuff, because you can just look
Mhm.
in the back. It'll have a word, like a keyword, and you can go to it'll give you the page to go to, and then it also gives you like the writer's notes. It lists their sources for their information. So,
Oh,
like,
really?
yeah, so you can just whatever's in there, you can trace it back to some article or wherever they got the information from. So I mean, I just think that it's
Yeah.
it's it's so
Huh.
cool. It's so cool. It like makes me rethink textbooks in high school and in school and stuff. It's like, man, there was so much in those.
Yeah. And so yeah, like as I was thinking and I mean this whole week I was reading book and researching in and out, and I wouldn't even say that 80, not even like 30% of information of what the whole book consists of. And it's already been a week, but then you have some people posting stuff that doesn't that they had no research of it. All they did was see it from somebody else, believed it, and then posted in hopes that they would go ahead and see more views.
Yeah, most mainstream news is punditry.
Hmm.
It's just commentary, people's opinion. It's
Yes.
not really. It's not always factual information, you know. And one thing I did want to talk about was how it really does feel like we're in a post-truth era, because
Okay.
like the concept fact check, like that fact check is an idea that regardless of whatever you believe your ideology, this is actually what's true. This is what's true. And you weren't able to get around that, but it's like people play with it now. Now it's not actual fact check. It's like it's your fact check. It's drawing from your conclusion. So whatever you believe at the end of it, you're tracing back from that point for this fact check to be true or prove you false.
Mm, have you seen that example live, like with something?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, like what?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There's the big. Do you remember or you saw during the inauguration? No, that's not a good example. Trying to think. What would be a good one? I mean, the only thing I could think of is like I've seen like when I was during the primary, there was this Bernie Sanders when he was running. His platform was Medicare for all,
Right.
and his whole thing was he was able to show you that it would cost cheaper to have a Medicare for all system as opposed to the system we have now. CNN did a fact check, and they did this thing where they give them Pinocchios. I forgot, or Washington Post, one of them gave them three Pinocchios, which means like saying that it disproved that Medicare for all wouldn't be cheaper, although they weren't able to accurately pinpoint or source it. It didn't make sense. They also said they also questioned medical bankruptcies, which is like one of the largest things that contribute to debt in the country right now. It was just it's they presented their own truth rather than
Mm,
actually fact checking what he had said. I mean,
right.
I know that's a little wishy washy. I'm trying to think of something more current, but
I kind of see what you're saying though. I kind of see what you're saying that even like for instance, for that case, why is CNN doing the fact checking?
yeah,
Right? Shouldn't be professionals, shouldn't be experts doing the or economists that are doing the actual fact checking versus the people at CNN, because CNN already has an agenda. They're
have a
gonna get,
bias. Yeah,
yeah, they're gonna get their own people to convince the public that that whatever they're gonna solve, whatever the solution is gonna be, is gonna fit their agenda. So I
yeah.
guess now it's tricky, right? Because now there's no actual platform.
So,
Well,
so
it platform that has no agenda.
even if you get someone to fact check, they still have their ideologies and their own personal beliefs. So it's like how it's hard to it's a difficult approach. I get it. I mean, but it's like, do we not have that anymore? Do we not do that
Right.
anymore? Because it does skew a lot. It does skew the way we perceive things.
Mhm.
You see, like on YouTube videos, even that if something mentions something about the pandemic or what happened during the inauguration, or there'll be a little thing on the bottom, little note that tells you, oh hey, per Wikipedia or whatever our source is, this could be false or inaccurate. Like that shit like that even that's not really okay because they have a bias too, right? I mean,
Right.
a lot of these social media platforms have profit motives as well. They have advertisers, so something is also pulling their way.
Yeah. Did you read the article that I sent you to where in 1983 there was 50 corporations that own the media, and by
Oh
that
yes,
meaning like the TV, the newspapers, the books, the magazines. And from 1983 um, to 19 what was 1992, yeah, it went in half, right? So it went from 50 corporations to 25. And then in 2000 there was 6 corporations, and now today there's 5. So out of
large
billions of
conglomerates.
people, billions of corporations, or millions of corporations or whatever, there's 5 corporations that pretty much own the whole media.
Yeah,
that's
and you can
that's
trace that
insane.
back to different different terms and changes in ideologies for that country itself. I think that more, even more than now, more than ever, people are understanding or starting to understand the purpose of antitrust.
Mm.
Why why we need to keep an eye on large corporations from doing these things, because there was a time when they weren't allowed to merge like this. You can trace it back to specific policies that have changed it. It came with an ideology like
Right.
that just like dominated. I think it was like right after Roosevelt.
Mm-hmm. And it's also that they're merging, and that they're like the big corporations are buying off all the little corporations.
Yeah. Well, they weren't allowed to do that before. You weren't allowed to do
Oh.
that before. There was a time when you were only allowed to be one corporation. It was whatever. You were a fast food joint. That's it. You did fast food. That's all you could do. You
Mm,
couldn't own another chain of fast food or anything like that.
mm-hmm.
It was also You also weren't allowed to buy your own stock for your own company at one point. Like you couldn't own that same burger joint and buy your own stock. That was illegal. And even now, that it sounds dumb. Like, why would you be allowed to buy? It's if it's your company. Why are you allowed to buy your own stock in it? That by its
Yeah.
very definition inflates it. It's not real, right?
Right. What about like the employees owning some of that stock?
That's a little different. Like
That makes more sense, right?
I think it would, but I kind of like the idea of democratic cooperatives, like where employees actually own the business as a collective rather
Mm.
than having one CEO or something like that. But
Mm.
right as it stands now, yeah, I think giving some of the ownership to the people, yeah, to your employees isn't a bad idea. But they don't do that. I mean, like, I think it was after the 2008 financial crash. Pensions don't really exist anymore,
Right.
like in specific sectors, like you or severance packages. There was like, when do you see that anymore? Like I've had like friends and older people that have had jobs where they got fired and they got a severance package, or people that have had pensions that they get paid out. Like we don't we don't have those anemones anymore.
Yeah. And you know what? I saw less of that. I don't know if this was like a state thing, but I saw less of that in California. Here in Texas, I see more of that. I've
No, okay.
actually come across people that also have shares to their company.
Mm-hmm.
So, and like if I were to give in, for my company, if I were to give in the share of my company, that would only motivate me, and that'll motivate me to put in more, or be more of a value to that company, because at the end of the day, it's like you're not only getting your paycheck, but also it's an investment.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, that was a good idea. And we should have that's probably something that happened before that we probably shouldn't stop.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I don't know. There's a lot of things that we do in this country that actively prevent us from moving forward. There's like
Yes.
I get it. I understand like the struggle coming up and hustling and all that, but at the same time, your own society shouldn't be preventing you, from moving forward either. Like, and I think that kind of gets into corruption, like, and
Mm-hmm.
antitrust and all that stuff. Like, it's like pretty difficult to unionize at any spot. Amazon like the largest is like one of the largest corporations, at least employee wise, and they like do everything they can to stop them from like unionizing, I guess. But I think they have something in Alabama where they're trying to unionize down there. It's like the first full blown like you guys might be able to do it.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
they don't upfront stop you. Let's just say they try to dissuade you.
right. Well, I've worked at a company where it was union based, and my opinion, I didn't like it.
Mm,
I didn't like it because um maybe I just have a different work ethic than everybody. But when
mm-hmm,
I went to work, I went to work and I like to stay busy all day because I don't want to be there all day. And the busier I am, the faster the time goes by because I want to go home. And when I was working at that union, there was a lot of people that were just sitting down, chopping it up, and not, doing much. And I don't know that, and keep them. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing where it's based on seniority. Like I think that's, I don't know if that's in all the unions, but in the union that I was at, that was one thing that they worked at. They worked at seniority. Like the longer you are there, the more, the better schedule you have, the more flexibility you have, the more opportunities you have. But for me, that I was just starting there, I wasn't able to just relax. And I mean, I didn't want to either, but that's one of the things. And I didn't get to pick my own schedule. I had to kind of get the leftovers of the people that been there for years,
mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah, I
But
could see that.
yeah, but I think, I mean, if we have two ways, I don't see why we can't collaborate them and make it
Yeah.
one, to where we can use the benefits of both.
Well, Lo, I get what you're saying. I'm sure that does happen. But I'd like to, if I could just like give you like a counterpoint. So
Yes.
let's just say that let's go like at your job right now. Um, let's say there was something wrong. Like let's say wherever you worked, there was like there was a leak. You just this drop of water keeps dropping on your head wherever that one spot that you work at at your desk, and they won't fix it. They don't care about it. It's not a big
Right.
deal, you know. If you had like a union, you have a team behind you that you can actually go and push back against your management. Whereas if it's just you, they probably it's just Omar. What is he gonna do? He just quit. But if you have like a full force of like your whole employees, all the employees together, like, hey, like this guy's getting water dropped on his head every day. We need to fix that fucking hole up there.
Right.
There's a collective voice. So I see unions more as uh, the counter to the CEO in a sense, to power and management, things like that. I think it's necessary because like uh, a lot of places work conditions are just abysmal. They're terrible. Like, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. And the argument against it is just get a better job. But at what point is it like you're not always able to get a better job? Sometimes you have to do what you got to. You got to do what you got to do. You know.
Right. Yeah. And the another benefit as a union is that when you're a union, you don't really have a quota you don't have a different quota every month or every year. What I've seen is that it's the same quota, you know, consistently. And to
Oh,
me,
you
that
mean profit motive?
yeah, yeah, like a profit quota, yeah, or a quota. And I guess to that, there was it was like, make this quota. I don't care how many hours you work. I don't care what you do, as long as that same quota is meet every month, doesn't matter. And I guess that leads to uh what I said, that um some people were slacking it while I was working, but they probably already did what they were supposed to do for the day, and
Mm,
now they're able to relax the rest. But
yeah,
yeah,
that whole idea of giving them stock options kind of like would help, maybe help, right? Maybe
yeah,
motivate you. I mean, but different people see things differently. Like, uh, somebody would probably see giving them that would make them lazier. You know, like, oh, they're not going to want to work anymore if they have that extra income from the stock coming in.
right, yeah.
I
Because
mean,
yeah, and there's always gonna be those people. Out of 10 people, there's gonna be one lazy one that doesn't want to do anything, and then that lazy one's gonna take advantage of the rest of the team. But to that, it takes the rest of the team to pull that one person out
mhm.
and put him where he belongs. You know what? If you don't like doing this, I think you would be great at doing this. That may involve a job almost doing nothing, but it's still necessary. You know, I think everybody has like their position. It's just a matter of finding it.
Yeah, I think so too. Like, even, yeah, you're right. I think not everybody's meant for everything, but
Yeah,
there probably is something meant for everybody. I
just a
mean,
matter of
finding us.
finding it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Back to the manufacturing consent. It's crazy because, like, in the video that you sent me, documentary, it showed how much involvement was in the US. And one of the things what they said was that, yeah, people complain, here, why is there so many Mexicans? Why are there so many Puerto Ricans? Why are so many Salvadorians? But these are the, countries where the US was most involved in. And because they were most involved in, they had to flee their home. And now this is where they end up.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. I mean, I talk about that all. I've talked to people about that, and that are like have a different view of immigration than I do, and I've mentioned that, and it's always just they scoff, like, whatever. Like, no, that's my point. Like, that's my point. What is was that your rebuttal? That, oh, whatever. That,
Right.
wait till you get into Iran. That's a fun one too. When you start learning
Oh,
about the U.S. involvement in Iran,
yeah.
back in the 70s, 60s, and 70s,
Hmm.
it's crazy. We have our this country has its hands everywhere. Like, and your point about immigrants, or people from other countries coming to this country, like, it's I understand it fully.
So give me an example.
How do we deal with that?
Yeah. How about we just stay away?
I mean, like, I think this is like kind of a fault of our education system, right? There should be better. They should be really sending that message out more.
Right.
What really happened in these countries? How did they get destabilized? It wasn't only their faults.
Right.
There was they were manipulated some way by the United States. I mean,
Right.
even now in Venezuela, it's the same thing. They did have their issues. I understand that, but also it's not like the U.S. has nothing to do with it.
Right. Right. And see, and another, I feel like American can be very profit based, because even like,
Only.
yeah, um like for example, like Guatemala, they were showing that while Guatemala was a very rich country, they learned how to be a very democratic republic, and they were all pretty good with their finances, with their products. Everybody was at a good flow, right? And the people here saw that as an advantage, so they went down there and they got connected with their government. They completely changed their government, changed the president, and now it's a completely different system, and now it's turned into a dictatorship. And
Yeah.
it's like the people can't even revolt against that, because now the dictatorship has support from from the US, with their military, with all their military ammo. And
Um,
how do you fight against that?
I mean, at that point, they kind of gotta. That's where you can say uh, you're kind of on your own there. There isn't much that we could do here for that. Outside of like I guess like give them what is it called? Give them that refugee status. That's the most that we could do. I mean, obviously we could do more, but that would require lobbying, and it's pretty difficult. Um, you were mentioning how like the government, like their whole government changed. That I learned that from video games, like where you can build your own nation state.
Uh-huh.
Usually, when you change the form of government, there's a period of anarchy.
Right.
So just imagine like switching governments like that through coups, military involvement, whatever. That it destabilizes the country. It
Right.
destabilizes a country, and it really does break it apart. It's terrible. It's horrendous like how that works, because that could happen anywhere. It could happen here. Like if there's a switch in government, change of government, it's like it can really harm us. I mean, there has been here, but it's like a slow drip. It happens so
Right.
slow, and then we barely notice it. But there are changes happening that are out of our control. I mean, it's not by mistake or by happenstance that there's only fucking six corporations. That they really do dictate. A lot of pretty much everything that happens in our country, right?
Right. Right. And it sucks because a lot of, there's a lot of politicians that are also involved in that. And um
Most, if not all.
yeah, and one I talked to somebody, and they're pretty much giving me the breakdown of how negotiations work in big corporations.
Mm-hmm.
And what was explained to me was that in order to achieve or get a hold of a actual like US contract, especially if you want to work with the government, you have to find the person that is in charge of that contract. So if you find, Joe from the government, one way
I
is
know him.
what one way is to get him to, to invite him to a dinner. But that dinner can be very costly, because not only are you paying for the food and drinks, but you also have to donate some money for whatever he's running. Let's say
Yeah.
he's running for senator or whatever. It requires he's like, okay, I'm not gonna sit down with you unless you give $10,000 to my campaign.
Mm-hmm.
And that just like opened my eyes. Like, you can't be doing that. You can't. That's bribing, right? How
Yeah.
how 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 is that okay?
Isn't that ethics? That's like I've been in so many ethics and compliance meetings that cover that stuff, and it's crazy because like a lot of the stuff that happens in government, a lot of the way that laws are passed and people
Mm-hmm.
are put into powers, they're all ethics violations. My goodness,
Mm-hmm.
rampant nepotism, favoritism. It's crazy.
But then again, they're out there, getting away with it. And I mean, I
I,
don't know close to anything about about politics, but you know, to me, it started to make sense why or how, like, these you hear about, all these politicians raising money. I'm like, okay, how are you raising money? Because we over here can't raise shit. So, and it's those 10,000, $20 worth dinners or breakfast or brunch or whatever. you know
yeah, I mean, if you're a politician, you're not supposed to be wealthy. I mean, you
Right.
can be, but you really shouldn't be, because how is that? I think I get, as a politician, you're supposed to be representative of the people, that the place that you live, whatever it may be,
Right.
and most politicians are pretty wealthy, so it's hard for me to believe that like every congressperson can relate to me, or senator can relate to me.
Mm-hmm.
If they make way more than me, and a lot of these people, more to it, they all hang out with each other too. That's
Yeah.
their circle, so when they're governing us, they're not really living amongst us. They're living in their circles and their
Amongst
groups with their
themselves.
friends. Yeah, so you can say, I think it's, well, you can see it, that they're out of touch with us regular folk, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I
And
mean, it's super exciting. It's so interesting that you're like, you don't want to. I'm sure you don't want to be talking too much politics or get pulled in there. But this, like, if you're gonna be reading this stuff like Noam Chomsky, you're gonna get dragged in.
that's okay.
I'll give you some pointers.
Mm-hmm.
Don't go too deep into it. Don't don't watch it every day. You know, maybe once or twice a week, whatever you can. If you're gonna research, that just uh, try not to overwhelm yourself with it, because it's just not.
Mm-hmm.
It's not fun. It's annoying, because like, once you start going down this path, like whatever your politics are, whatever you believe, it's just that you got to do your best to take a lot of this stuff with a grain of salt. You're gonna get mad a lot. You're gonna see a lot of things you disagree with, but the best thing to do is keep reading and keep researching, but just gradually.
Right. And see, my thing is that, I don't necessarily have to do anything or get or, create some action out of it, but it's always good to know what's going on,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like that you don't get, caught off guard or anything. And see, that's why I really love doing podcasts because, like, since I knew you were going to be a guest, I wanted to talk about this. And that's why I spent my whole week on. And it's
Yeah.
like whoever I'm gonna be a guest, I want to know exactly what's going on. So that way I want to ask the right questions. And so that way we kind of get in the same vibe and the same conversation, so that
Mm-hmm.
kind of helps me go from subject to subject to subject without strictly sticking to one.
I mean, that makes sense. That makes perfect sense.
Right.
I mean, I take the same approach. If I were to be looking for a job, I'm going to research where I'm working, so when I get my interview, I know exactly what they're
Right.
looking for. Yeah, I mean, that's it. That's interesting. I can't wait to see who you're going to have next.
Okay. I feel like with especially podcasts going on, and I've seen that a lot of like journalists that don't get valued for their work or the research that they do have gone forward and started their own podcast. And it's like
Mm-hmm.
that's all we need. If it's like that, you're not really tied down to a news media. You can have now your own journalist, and you can actually you'll be able to trust them because of how deep he goes into any type of field or any type of subject.
I love that. I actually, that's, it's so cool that you can find something that you would be interested in, and you can find somebody that goes in depth on that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's actually what I like to do. Like, and depending on what type of news I want to hear. If, like, I used to watch rest in peace Michael Brooks before he died. He was a whiz when it came to global politics. It was amazing how he just knew so much about other countries' politics and what they're going through, and like uh, that was hard. Like, I really missed that. I missed that commentary. Like, there's not a lot of people out there that did what he did. So, and that's just like one thing. If I want, like, what else do I like to listen to? if I like more local politics, I have my podcast that I listen to for that stuff too. But
Mm-hmm.
that's that. I like that. I love that about podcasts. I actually wanted to mention something to you. I don't know if you know this, but over the last week, YouTube has been like shutting down shutting down people's monetary monies.
Really?
A lot of left wing people, yep, shutting them down. Anyone that was talking about what happened on January 6th, they literally these are people that sold their footage to major news organizations that are being like demonetized.
Mm-hmm.
It's
And
pretty bad.
what happened on January 6th?
The capital thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I'm sorry, I don't.
yeah, yeah, it's okay. I'm doing my best not to like say certain things. I mean, I know you're not like, I know you may not get in trouble, but just in case, I just try to be careful with that stuff.
Hmm.
Because like if they're like they're coming after a lot of them. Like it sucks. And the same thing happened with like Reddit. Reddit had the same thing happen with the
Oh,
whole
yeah.
GameStop thing. Like it's it sucks. Like I know that these are private corporations, but it feels like they're really fucking with the First Amendment at this point. And
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, let's talk
you know,
about that, the GameStop thing.
isn't that crazy?
Yes. Yes.
Oh
And you
man,
know what? That's good because I feel like in the stock market, the people that really making millions of dollars are, already the millionaires, billionaires, but they're already doing it with themselves. But
yeah,
this time you got, middle class or lower class people that did it together as a community thing, and they did the same thing, and now, you know it's been banned or it's been closed or whatever. It doesn't make
it's eye
sense.
opening. It's
Yeah.
eye
Yeah.
opening.
But it's
It,
good.
it
That's how everything should be, as like a community based. Not to where we're all benefiting out of every any type of action that we make.
you know what that taught me?
Hmm.
That the best way for us to push back on these things that are happening, to really stick it to those five corporations,
Mm-hmm.
is through our dollar.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it. They pumped up this stock, and these hedge funds lost billions of dollars because but we regular people pumped up GameStop stock, so it
Right.
really hurt them. You know.
Right.
So where else could we do that? How else could we
Right.
do that? You know,
Right.
let's not shop at Amazon one day. Let's not buy gas one day. You know,
Right.
what happens? Like
Yeah.
I feel like there is a lot of good lessons that we took from this, and it also lets us see that that these billionaires, these people playing in the stock market, are gambling with money that's not theirs. Let's start with that. Money that doesn't belong to them. But also, when it gets done back to them, they don't like it, and now they want to clamp down on us, or they want to try to regulate us, regulate regular people from playing in the stock market, like
Yeah.
that. I feel like it's this story. It's not big enough. It needs to be bigger.
Yeah, to me, before finding out that, it was just like another day in the stock market. But when you have people wanting to close the stock so that way nothing comes in and nothing comes out, that doesn't make sense. Because like I said,
Oh, they were
everything that's stuff that happens every day.
with this thing specifically, the GameStop. If I'm not mistaken, people from the app weren't allowed to purchase a stock. They could
Right,
sell it,
right.
but on the other end, Wall Street people were allowed to buy the stock and sell.
Yeah, that doesn't make
At least that's
sense.
what I read that. I don't know
Yeah.
if we,
Yeah, I
that
think
would.
there was, if I'm correct, there was only like about 11, 12 companies that the people from Reddit boosted up. And those were the
Mhm.
companies that you weren't able to buy or sell your stock from.
Yep, yep,
Yeah. And see,
that's wrong.
yeah, if we know, like for GameStop, if we know GameStop is doing the right thing and they're actually contributing to society and to the community, then why not invest into their company so their stock could go up? But see, if
Yeah,
we were to invest in companies that we know are actually going to benefit society, then why not? Because at the end, a lot of these companies are starting up with venture capitalists, and you know, it it would be a good thing if versus only a certain amount of people. What if more and more people like the average Joe can be capital what I say venture capitalist
capital venture capitalist. Yeah,
yeah, venture capitalist towards those companies, because not only that
maybe
company that is starting out small and making a product, that's making a product or doing research on something like against a disease or something, that could boost it up.
probably. But I mean, like, well, even when I guess outside of the stock market, I could see something like that. But within the stock market, even though the GameStop stock went up, it didn't really help GameStop. GameStop was still doing crappy. It's just their stock that went up. I mean, that kind of seems like an issue within itself. Is like, why was that? Why was that like that? If they weren't even doing good on their day to day business and bringing in revenue, why would you buy stock in that?
Right,
That obviously they did it intentionally so it would fail. They wanted it to fail. Wall Street did.
right,
Wanted
right,
these they wanted it to fail.
right.
So I mean, I can see what you're saying at like outside of the stock market, but I think the stock market dominates the world, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
Like everything runs through that. So I mean, something to think about. But
yeah, yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, because even if what was I even if like I don't know, that's a crazy thought.
I know it's too much. It's so much to hold in your head
My
at
brain
one
hurts.
time. Yeah,
My brain
yeah.
hurts. Yeah. And see, that's no normally that's what you're supposed to do, right? You're supposed to invest into companies that are gonna do good eventually. And see, with companies that do end up that are already doing good, what they give you is they give you dividends. So if you own 100 shares of of a certain stock, every month they give you dividends, meaning they give you back a certain amount of percentage because that company is doing well because of your investments, that now you're getting a portion aside of that back. So it's like, when you
Hmm,
use your credit card, you get cash back. So that's kind of like cash back because you're investing into it, you get cash back. So I think
man.
there is some type of way that companies like that in stock market also um, make or increase their market. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah. That's. I mean, I don't know too much about that. I'm like completely out of my depth at that point. Once we start diving deeper into the stock
Yeah.
market, it's a lot to learn too. I know that's so weird. I like. Yeah, my head hurts too from thinking about it. Trying to
Well,
make that connection of a storefront to a stock.
but even like the stock market, even though it's this huge monster, it's made some huge changes because it's been around since like the 1700s. and back in
Shit,
the and back in the 1700s, it wasn't public to everybody. It was only a certain amount of people.
oligarchy.
Yeah, and those people they would pretty much run the stock market, and you get the average Joe to buy stock for a share that didn't know whether it was going to go up or down, but you got people that are trying to convince them that it is, and at the end of the day they lose all their money.
I mean, that's how it is now.
Yeah, but
You
now,
like
but now
how,
there's more. But now there's more information, so you can actually see what the company is all about, what their goals are, and what they're like. If you see, a new company coming up, and they are saying, "Okay, you know what? We're gonna go public," And if you believe in that company and if you trust that company and you know that company is going to be good in the future, then you can say, okay, I'm going to go invest into that company. You're not
Mhm.
taking somebody else's work from it. You're
Yeah,
making your own risk and you're using your own research to put your money into that stock.
yeah. I just think that, well, I'm thinking about people that talk about stocks, or if anyone on in the mainstream media has a show that's about stock, like I would imagine they have an incentive to sell you, to get you to buy a certain
Mm-hmm.
stock. So should you even really listen to somebody that's talking about
Right.
stocks, like, or what to buy or how to buy? Like maybe how to buy, maybe 101 on how to you play the stock market, or how to day trade and all that good stuff. But I think if someone's recommending stocks, that would probably,
Yeah.
I wouldn't trust that.
Yeah. And see, I mean, even I it would be also good for everybody to even just go into the stock market. Like for it also doesn't it kind of doesn't make sense, but you do gain some profit out of it, you know.
Do you participate in the stock market?
Yes.
I do not. I do
Yeah.
my. Oh no, I'm lying. Uh I have some, not directly in stocks, but like my 401k and some other stuff that I do.
And see, you know how you said that it wasn't to your boy, it wasn't like right for like the CEO to invest or buy stock to his own company.
Yeah.
A lot of 401k companies, that's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, I know. They're
As soon
yeah.
as I saw that, I automatically took my money out because at the
You
end
don't
of
have
the
a
day,
401k anymore?
no, I have is an IRA. I have an individual retirement account. So I
I have
can
that as well.
Oh, okay. So I pretty much control where my money goes and I watch it all the time and I move it up and down or whatever. But I
Mm-hmm.
know if I lose money, I know it's because of me, and
Mm-hmm.
I mean what I do is I try to stay away from buying stocks from banks or stuff like that because that's way too risky.
To
Or
me, that's wrong.
huh?
To me, it's wrong.
To what?
Banks being involved in the stock market,
Yes. Yes.
very wrong.
Yeah, that's another reason why I don't part. And I don't. That's why I try not to buy stocks for the for the banks.
They're literally using your money. They're
Yeah,
literally using your money. Like, it's infuriating, dude. See, this is why you gotta take a break every now and again. It's so upsetting.
yeah. Well, there's a quote that says that like the more like on the subject, the more you read into it, the more you learn about it, the sadder you get, because the more you understand it, and the more and more depressing it is. And I feel like that's
I
how
could see that.
pretty yeah.
I could see that. But I mean, I don't know. I still like it.
Yeah, and see, because of the whole Reddit thing, there's been people that are now buying more stocks in the stock market.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, I'm sure they are. But I just, man, that stuff gets used against us all the time. Like now,
Mhm.
more people are playing in the stock market. I mean, I guess that's a good thing, right? I mean, I
I
really
would
don't
think,
know.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I'm not gonna think too much about it. You know what? If people are getting their money from the stock market, fantastic. Regular people, average people, not people that already have ridiculous amounts of money that don't need more than that. Like who needs more than $1 million a month?
right. Well, honestly, depend. I think it depends what you
Would you
want to
need more
do.
money?
It
Why?
depends what you want to do.
I mean, generally speaking,
Okay, like
you
if you
got $1 million a month. Do you think you'd be okay?
yes,
Would you ever be homeless or go hungry? Or
no,
no?
but well, I
Why
mean,
do you need more?
let's start with something lower. Because see when I when you um when you start putting ideas in your head and when you start putting goals in your head, that never stops.
Yeah.
Once you achieve one goal, you're going to come out with another goal. Once you achieve one idea, you're going to get another idea.
What what does it say about a person when their goal is always tied to like a number or
Yeah,
money?
I guess.
That's
Yeah,
at
yeah, I
what point
get the
is that
problem.
concerning?
Yeah, I guess.
Like
Well, I mean, even doing something for society requires money. Unfortunately, a lot of things that are for society requires money.
I agree. So
Yeah.
would you would you ever entertain the idea of like a maximum wage? Because we have a minimum wage. What about like a maximum wage? Like you can only make this much. You can't make any more than that. Because,
Mm-hmm. Hmm. What would the maximum wage be?
let's say 12 million a year.
12 million a year?
The most personal income you can receive is 12 million a year.
Yeah. But for CEOs, is that really a wage? Because like for CEOs, you don't only get your wage, you also get commission and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So see, that can also be something where, yeah, even though I'm maxing my wage, I'm gonna do whatever it takes to increase my commission.
Well then, I mean, like you just do away with stuff like that. I'm just saying, like, I just don't really see the reason that someone would need ridiculous amounts of money.
Right. Right.
Like I don't know. I guess that's just the minimalist in me, or something like that. I don't know.
Right.
It's just crazy to think that you would need more than $1 million a month.
Right. Right. But see, it's also a good thing that the more money you make, the more money you take. The government takes. So when that happens, you're kind of forced to put your money into nonprofit corporations or nonprofit companies that that can do something for society.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that
Yeah.
was the whole purpose of a nonprofit, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you have all this money, like you and I shouldn't. Well, I'm not a millionaire, so there's no reason that I should be starting a nonprofit, because it wouldn't really benefit me. But if, like, let's say I was filthy rich, probably. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I wouldn't do it for
Yeah.
the tax write-off. So
Yeah, I think that's another thing too, that some millionaires or billionaires take advantage of that system too. And then there's nonprofit organization that's that's pretty much fake. That's all it is. It's labeled as a nonprofit. So now you have all these people feeding this nonprofit organization that it's money that goes nowhere. And all it is money that will just transfer over to the next generations. But you use that just so that way you can show the government that um, that you're investing or you're putting money into, or that you're donating money.
mhm. Dang, I guess so. But nonprofits are bullshit now, aren't they?
Some of them, I wouldn't say all of them.
I'm just saying in general. Not all, because not all of them. I'm sure there's good ones out there,
Right.
but there's even the concept private nonprofit now. Like, what does that mean?
Really.
Yeah,
Yeah. And see,
there's private nonprofits.
I think we should, the good thing is that there's options, and the people that are trying to take advantage of any option should be checked. But
Yeah,
we should uplift the people that are doing the right thing, not taking advantage of the system, and are really serving society, the community, and really their purpose and their morals.
you're right. That'd be nice.
Right.
Like I that's at least that's somebody told me that I'm wishful. I'm a wishful person because of, like, I think like that. Like, yeah, that's really what we should do. We should help people that want to help other people.
Right. Yes, we should uplift people that are doing the right thing, and people that are trying to do the bad thing, not the righteous thing. We should keep them on check. Be like, all right, you can't do that. Stop it. Just be like a little kid, slap their slap their hands. Can't do that.
Oh,
Can't do that.
yeah, you don't want to do that, dude.
Yeah.
Something's wrong. What are you drinking, by the way? What is that? What is that you're drinking? Is it water?
Modelo.
Modelo.
Yeah.
It's 5 over there, huh?
Yep.
Lucky you, dude. It's 3 over here and it's hot.
Really? It's cold over here.
Is it really?
Next week it's gonna be 12 degrees in the morning.
Wow.
Yeah, it's gonna be freezing.
Is that bad? Does it suck?
Well, no, not really. You just get a little bit of it, because I get up to work at 4:30 in the morning, so that's when it's really cold,
And dark?
dark. Yeah,
I feel like I used to think that like I was having trouble seeing in the dark, but I think it's darker around here now.
really.
Yeah, it's darker. Like it's sometimes harder to see at night. Maybe I am getting older, but everybody has high beams now, and
They-
it's so crappy when you're driving at night now. Because the whole idea is, see, like for the darkest roads, you got your high beams, but everyone has their high beams on, so it makes it hard to see.
right.
The worst.
Yeah.
Oh,
Here's one thing. So when we were on the immigration topic, so I talked to somebody, and before I looked into it, we started talking about immigration, and he's like, you know what, I'm all about legal immigration, but I feel like everybody should come in and wait in line. So I said, okay. And and I said, well, how long does it take? And he was telling me, well, it usually takes about 5 years, and then you're through. And I was like, okay, well, how would we resolve this? What is one thing that we can do? And he was like, well, one thing we can do is probably spread more information, spread more, I don't know, just provide more information on our side and on other countries of what's the right way to do it, you know?
well, why would you need to educate us on what's the right way to do it?
So that way we can understand what
Oh,
the other people have to go through, right? And then as I started looking into it, I saw that there's actually four ways. And one, there's no line, you know, and watching a lot of stuff and reading a lot of stuff, I feel like people are very ignorant, and they're uninformed of what really how it works. And they seem to picture there's this one line where you can just wait in line, and it's easy, but it might have been, you know years ago, but it's not the same now.
mm-hmm.
And one way to do it is to get sponsored by a family member that's already here as a citizen, and he could only be your spouse, your husband, and your children, and that's it. And another way would be through visa, through work visa. And even then, if you work through even if you get it through the work visa, and let's say your contract ends, now you have to decide. Now you have to look for another job here, or you have to think about going back. And if you end up trying to get a job here, it has to be a job that a citizen from here is not applying for. Because if you have somebody that's going for the same position as somebody in Mexico, they're gonna choose the person that's already a citizen. So now you have to either apply for another job or stay in the line, right? And this is
Mm-hmm.
something that they have to constantly worry about. Okay, this is a new year. Am I gonna stay here, or am I gonna go back to my country? And see, there's people here that just been from job to job to job, and there's people that come here, get the experience. They're very knowledgeable and they're very skillful, but they don't have work the next year. So what they do, like this one guy, he's from the Middle East. He came and he got a bunch of experience, bunch of knowledge and everything. He attended school here, and then because he couldn't find a job and couldn't prolong his visa, he went back to India and started his own company over there. And
It's crazy.
another way to
And
do it is through, like, there's this lottery thing.
I've heard of the lottery. I went to school with people from the lottery.
Oh yeah, and
Hmm.
yeah, where it's just you put your name in the system, and then randomly you get picked, right? And
Hmm.
the fourth one is through asylum, which is those people that unfortunately have to go through that, but that's not really a choice for everybody.
No, it's not.
And
Huh.
all if and overall, the average to becoming a citizen could be from 15 to 30 years.
Isn't most illegal immigration overstayed visas right now? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, that's interesting, but imagine just being that person and then like you want to make the decision to go back, but the job you got doesn't give you enough money for a ticket, or it's
Right.
coronavirus.
Yes.
Like there's a lot of things that like impact that. It sounds it's super complicated. Like, don't get me
Yes.
wrong.
It's a super complicated system. And like as soon as you come over here, if you come here as single and you're here just for 1 year as your temporary visa, how do you not know you're gonna find somebody that you fall in love with? And or you get in a contract with it's 2 or 3 years, you fall in love with somebody, you have kids, and then now what?
They could pull you back over, right? Because as your
Mm-hmm.
kid,
Yeah.
what a weird loophole.
Yeah.
So after this flirtation with immigration that you're having, has it changed your view on it,
No, it
or
just
does
it
it just reinforces what you think?
um I just think it's like everything, it's good to know, and it's something that should be, everybody should understand what other people have to go through, and that it's not so easy.
Yeah.
And as if I
Mhm.
feel like as long as we have support from people that don't understand what they have to go through, that'll at least get something changed.
Yeah. Nah, if I could add to that, I think more people need to be aware of the history of why people are immigrating here.
Right.
You know, because like you were saying, pretty much all the stuff you're learning about South America and the U.S. involvement that impacts today, like
Right.
hands down. It can't not. You know, if you have a family that never owned a house, that's going to screw you down the line because you don't have that
Yes.
house in your you don't have that house, you don't have that stable home.
Yeah. And I understand that, you shouldn't, or some people get mad because others take advantage of the system, but that's also because they don't have this, like like this, like let's say a contract. You know what? Okay, you're here now, but you have 1 year to pretty much get your shit together. You have 1 year. If
Yeah.
or it could also be like a lack of staff, because I think the right way to do it was probably, as soon as you come in, somebody just like a counselor. When you get a DUI, you have to constantly see a counselor to see how you're doing. How
Yeah.
did you have a drink this week? No. Okay, good. What are you doing to prevent that? Just like that's how I feel like that's how it should be with immigration. Did you go and look for a job? Yes. Okay, any luck? No. Okay, how can I help you? Do you need classes for speaking English? Do you need to go to school? What do you need, in order for you to get ahead?
That's interesting. I mean, you don't think somebody would give you shit for that? And like you're giving them welfare?
But then that's what I mean. Like put it like a limit. You have 1 year to put your shit together. And but even then, what I was
But do you think somebody can realistically learn? Do you think it's fair to assume somebody could learn English in a year?
not well, or maybe like as
Well,
the
I get it, but it's just an example, or is
no
this
no
how it is?
yeah, or like I mean, as the person looks like they are actually, um, doing something productive
Mm-hmm.
and becoming, you know, a good product of society, then maybe that should prolong, because obviously, like you said, it's not going to take a year, but maybe because now he's going to school um, to learn English, and now he at
Mm-hmm.
least has a full job. And although it might not be his career, his schooling is eventually going to get him to his career. So
So,
that'll move it up from a year to a year and a half or 2 years.
so in your example, would let's go with like the education. Is the education free? Would they have to pay for it? Because like now it's like if they can't get it, if they have to get a job, but there's a language barrier, so they're having trouble get a job. So you get to send them to school,
Right.
or do they? Would they have to? That's tricky,
Yes.
because if you're like if you were to say, oh, well, you know what, we'll give them the opportunity to go to school, or we'll pay for a year to get you on your feet or something like that. Then you're
Mm,
gonna have people be like, oh, you're giving them welfare. Why are you giving them handouts? It's kind of like
right.
it's a really tricky needle to thread, but I get what you're saying. Like that'd be pretty. I think that like I think you have a good idea there. Like your line of thinking, it's fair.
Yeah.
It's fair.
Because I
Yeah.
mean, at the end of the day, we should be, we should all be winning. We shouldn't just have one person and rule the rest of us. Everybody should be at least on the same level or working towards the same level.
Yeah. I mean, I would say at least the same starting point or as close to the same starting point in life would be
Hmm.
fair. You know, I understand like things aren't fair, but I think that's kind of our job as a society is to create the best path forward. With the most opportunity.
Yeah.
I think if you do that, I mean, it's kind of hard for somebody that intentional like doesn't succeed through that. It's hard for them to blame society or system. There's always going to be people falling through the cracks, though. I
Yeah.
mean, nothing's perfect. It's always work in progress, but at the same time, it isn't perfect. So things have to change. We have to evolve and grow with our systems and our economies and our societies. We have to, like you said, like the community. The needs for us are going to be different than whatever our future is, our future kids.
Yep. 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 Well, it's a good way to end, Steven.
Oh man, felt like I was taking a test.
All right, man. Well, I gotta go. But thank you again
Thank you.
for being a guest on my podcast.
Thanks for having me. I see "Honor with Omar." I like it. I like
You
the
like it?
logo. I'm liking what you're doing, dude. It looks
Thanks,
like you
man.
have the Iron Man thing on your chest, but it's just your mic.
Oh yeah.
Sit up.
Yeah.
Sit back. Sit up. That looks like that's your chest. Anyways, it was a lot of fun. I'm gonna go bike shop with my girlfriend now.
All right. And then
Yeah,
yeah, we'll check out another book together and maybe dive into that.
I'd be interested in a topic within reason. Nothing too crazy.
You should come to Texas. At least to visit.
I will probably do that.
Visit. And then if I don't have my own studio, then we could just go to the studio in Dallas. Have some
Sounds like
whiskey.
fun.
Even if it's
Whiskey's delicious.
come for like the weekend, dude.
Oof. Let me talk to my girlfriend.
Yeah, come for the weekend. I'll give you I'll have you I'll have a room for you to stay in.
Ooh.
Yeah. Right now it's called the toys room because that's where my daughter has her toys.
That makes sense. We have a man cave. My girlfriend, she's like, it's not a man cave. It's the computer room at most.
But you consider it the
Anyways.
man cave?
Yep.
Yeah.
Good talking to you. I'll talk to you next time. Obviously we text. So
Yes. All right, man. Take care. I'll talk to you.
Bye.
Talk to you later.
Bye.